Okay. Shall we start? So Rich, I just wanted to check with you. We are doing these eyes and faces. We did that in another batch, no? You attended that one.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So it might be a bit of a repetition today, but I'm going to try and crunch two things together. One is the individual features, the eyes, nose, mouth, and also possibly the face, and then do a face, an abstract illustration of a face from a photograph. Okay, right. Lots to do. But the best thing is today we are going to do it as a combination of a very fast free line sketch and well, limited shading, not depending so much on the shading part, but trying to get proportions and scale of the features more accurately. So I'm going to demonstrate some of these features, and I want you to just observe how your hand moves on paper. So these are I'll just share the pictures that we're doing. So I've given a selection of eyes, which I feel are the more important feature than others. And also pairs, but also mostly individual eyes to study the structure. It's more or less the same lines, but proportions change, shapes change, and placement changes. And that's why the eye looks different. You can see it is looking at a different place. So the more you practice these, the better your observation about features will become. Now, the eye has a lot of parts, so it becomes a little easier to start with the eyes. When you come to the mouth, that's a different beast altogether, because here you have mostly skin and cartilage, and there's hardly any firm lines. If you look at this, you just have a firm line at the opening of the mouth and one part of the nostrils. The rest is all shading. So very often we miss illustrating the essence of nose and mouth. The shapes change dramatically when the face turns to the side. And then, of course, we've got teeth. So the teeth also tend to be a bit of a problem when we're illustrating, because we see them as individual teeth, but when we draw them like that, the model suddenly starts looking hideous. So I'm going to show you how to not fall in that trap. And then we have these three illustrations which have some kind of quirk. And we'll choose one of these to create a sketch out of, and then an abstract illustration out of. So at no point are we looking at making the illustration look realistic, just compelling. That's what we're going to focus on. All right, so what we'll have over here is just a distribution of face parts. But I want you to make them small, don't make them too large. Ideally, never make any human feature more or larger than what its size would be when you look at it. So you can make it smaller, but don't make it too large. Even if it is an entire face, don't make the face in proportion bigger than you would see a usual face, which is, any guesses on how tall a regular face is? Have you ever measured it? We never think of these things, no?
About the size of your palm.
Yeah, and somebody's done that to you? You put that on your face and they box
Yes,
it?
yeah.
It is mostly that. So from 7.5 to 8 inches, that's about how tall your face is. So whenever you're making a full portrait or something, don't make it more than about 7 inches because it starts looking very unnatural. We won't get proportions right. It's all a big mess then. So even today, when we're practicing the eyes, control your size. Don't make the line more than about an inch, inch and a half at the most. I've seen people practicing eyes that are this big, and for some reason, there's a belief that the bigger you make it, the more impressive it'll look, but it just looks scary. So again, if you want to make a scary eye, go ahead and make it really large. Okay, let's start in a sequence. So starting with the first eye, I just want you to observe. Don't draw with me. I just want you to observe the movement of the hand and the lines. And hopefully the lines will be visible dark enough. If it's not visible, tell me, huh? Okay, so start making, let me just explain to you first. How do you look at the lines? We go back to exactly the um, same kind of cues that we use for all other objects. Start with a line. In this case, we will draw a line from what we see as the outer edge of the eye to the inner corner of the eye. We always give ourselves some kind of horizontal and vertical orientation because this is absolute. Horizontal and vertical are absolute lines. Everything else is can be drawn or drafted in relation to the horizontal and vertical. So here we have some degree of line. So it could be, in the way we measure it, it is close to maybe 10 o'clock. Yeah. And this would be your 11 o'clock line, right? So it's close to 10 o'clock, this angle. Then you can divide the line in half or 1/3 as you see fit. So if I were to divide it in thirds, I would get the eyeball, and then half of 1/3, you get the inner eye, and just less than half of that 1/3, I get the end of the inner eye. So can you see how I am, just based on the picture in front of me, creating my own guidelines? Now from here, the eye goes almost straight beyond the half point, and then it takes an angle, and then of course you curve it accordingly. And here you almost have a circle. Yeah, this part is almost circular. Then this curve and the curve of the eye, see what relation there. They are not concentric. Here there's more gap. Here there is less gap. Here there is more gap. Okay, can you see these things? And then we have the line of the eyebrow. The eyebrow almost goes straight out, and it's narrow in one side, and then it goes straight out, almost spock-like. But because it bends over here, it creates the illusion of a turn, but the hairs are still visible over here. All right, so this is how you observe. And this observation, obviously, you don't do it in these terms. So I want to show you how I will make these observations, but with a flowing line. Let me share the screenshot with you. So you can keep an eye literally on the screenshot. And I'll make that quick sketch. So I'll start off with the vertical horizontal, maybe somewhere over here. The line at 10 o'clock. So that gives me an inside and outside edge, 1/3, almost straight, and then coming down here. And then from here, a circle. So all this can be drawn looking at the um, the grid lines. And then at some point, you can switch back to the original image, and then you can continue the illustration. So the true data is in the original image, not in the grid lines. So the grid lines must be used only to some extent. Don't depend on them for all the information, because it's a very boring way of working. When you will be invited to make a portrait of uh, like a celebrity and you don't want to embarrass yourself, then go ahead and measure every millimeter and micromillimeter. But tab tak, even this much is enough. Okay, now this has become slightly bigger than it's supposed to be. I'm marking my highlight. So I'm not going to illustrate this uh, to make it very realistic, but I am going to try and put down the right tonal values in whatever region I can. So if you notice, the edge of the eye is slightly darker in color, but the center is not. And then I have these lines. So my lines are going to be rather light, and then I'm going to build on them based on what I see in the real photograph. You can keep the lines very scribbly also. That's not a problem. And to some extent, you can also do some shading, but don't make it like a very fine shading right now. So as much as a realistic illustration and fine shading does matter, it's a lot of times, those of you who've tried portraiture will notice that you will do fine shading on the wrong shapes. And it's a very frustrating exercise. Then no matter what you do, you can't correct it. And it just keeps looking worse and worse, but you put in so much of time and energy that you just hope and pray that more time and energy you put, the better it gets. It doesn't unfortunately work like that. This part is something that we don't focus on. Okay, so this gives us a semblance and makes our eye go over the accurate shapes and make a sketch out of what we see. To this now you can add, even if you want to add the shape of the face, a little more shading, keep it very sketchy like that. Okay, do you want to give it a shot? So take no more than 10 minutes to do this. Now, those of you who are seeing the reference image on the screen, sit back and hold your book in your laps so that your eye does not go up and down and up and down. There's too much loss of information. If you're going to keep your work on the table, maybe use a phone or a tablet so that your eye just moves from one side to the other side. You have to minimize this. Now, just so that I can put a rush and y'all don't just sit sketching endlessly, I'm going to move on to the next eye. And those of you who finished the first eye, choose whichever one you want to make and move to the next one. So in the first 20-30 minutes, I want us to make at least 2-3 eyes. Don't judge how they are turning out to be. Keep your hand going free. Oh yeah, here's another point. What you should not do. So those of you who are making hesitant lines, who are doing this, this is not a line. This is not a drawing line. This is not a line. No matter how hard you try, this line is going to look ugly. What I can recommend is draw long lines like that. Draw them very light. Hold the pencil so far away that whatever lines you draw will just add to the texture of your picture. Draw that horizontal line at the angle that you see it. Draw your vertical, horizontal line as guides. And as you draw these lines, you start seeing spaces differently. And you don't always have to start with the eye. You can also start with the eyebrow if that's the shape that you find most compelling and easy to replicate. And as you can see, I'm not too bothered with drawing individual hairs here, but I am following the direction of the hair growth. So if you're concerned about how your lines are looking, if they are the right, if they're free lines, they always look good. If they are restricted lines, they tend to look very boring and very ugly also. So at this stage, we are not looking at the eye turning out to be accurate. I want you to observe your line quality. That's much more important than accuracy of the shape of the eye. Now, when it comes to light and dark, like the white of the eye looks white only with respect or in relation to the other colors in the neighborhood. If you look closely at this eye, the inner eye also, or the white of the eye is actually also gray. If you just zoom in, you will notice that it's not really white. So these are some differences that non-artists don't even see. That differences between beginner artists and advanced artists, where their eyes looks very real or believable, and you've drawn the same shape, but it still looks very flat. And that's because we sometimes don't see shadows, because we see that object as its identity rather than how it presents itself at that point. So I want to share a picture. I'm sure you must have come across this thanks to social media, where we see something as black or white because of certain illusions that have been made for that purpose. Okay, here's an image I want you to see. You must have come across this. All right, we have what looks like a box that is open, almost like an iPod case. You have the top that looks like it's gray and the bottom that looks white against a very Jhatak background for the bottom and a blue background for the top. So the optical illusion over here is to convince us that this entire section is gray and this entire section is white. And we believe that because of the shadow on the top rectangle and the highlight on the bottom rectangle. But if you pick the color from either place, so if you pick this color and you pick this color, this is exactly the same shade. And it's almost unbelievable. If you see the second drawing, they've actually picked those colors. Can you see that they match? So this is an example of how we see color in the context, in a particular context. And we can easily be convinced that something is a particular color because of its identity. Here, the bottom part, its identity is white in our heads, but in reality, it shows as gray. Likewise, for the top, in our heads, the identity is gray. And here at the bottom of that gray patch is just a shadow. And that identity and reality is the same. Okay, so when you are seeing objects like these, do notice that there is a certain shadow even in the gray or white parts. All right, shall we move on to the nose and mouth now? Is everyone okay with this? Any questions, any difficulties? Okay.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
I have an issue making the eyebrows. I somehow just managed to make some squiggles, lines, and whatever, they don't come as beautiful as what you've done.
Can I have a look?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just gonna pin this so I can see it. Okay, so here the problem is the line quality and the direction. So what's happening in your case is your lines are probably coming like this.
Yes.
What you should do, or you can try to do, one is that notice that all the lines are not in the same direction.
Right.
So the direction changes. So when you're making these eyebrows, start with making lines which are like that. They start without a definite point, end without a definite point. And the direction keeps changing from one area to the next. So you can make a bunch of eyebrows which are like that and very light. So even if I'm scribbling, I will make the scribble in the denser part of the eyebrows and leave the outside pretty much untouched till the very end. And you have to follow the direction that the eyebrow hair normally takes. And here it would be upright. Now, in this particular case, because the person is looking face down and only the eye looks up, those upright hair are not even visible. But this is how it would go. Even over here, you can see that the scribbles are in the direction, but the dark part is towards almost towards the bottom. But there are a few strands of hair which are lightly extending out of the dark part. Okay, so what? Avoid making same direction. Just avoid it. They're not in the same direction. And also the line quality. So our hand is used to this quality, this writing quality, which is one firm line. But try to make a line that is like this. Starts very light and then even if it is wobbly, that's fine. But let it extend outward and then just let it trail out. That will make for nicer hairs. It can work for eyebrows, for fur on animals, all sorts of things.
Thank you,
Okay.
ma'am.
Yeah, all right.
Ma'am, can I mine?
Yeah,
I think I'm out of practice. That's why it is came out like this.
you're out of what?
Practice, I think.
Also, you're trying to make one firm line. I
Yeah,
don't see the sketchy lines.
Yeah.
So try the next one like that. Try sketchy lines.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Now for the nose and mouth, it's a little tricky. But let's go with the side profile. Let's try this mouth and try a girl's mouth first because boys' mouths are again a little difficult. Okay, I'm going to show this to you. Don't paint, don't draw with me, just observe. Now, again, over here, it's all about proportion. You can start off with a vertical line, horizontal line to mark the position. And you'll see this as I proceed. So you have the center of the nose somewhere over here, from which you have one nostril. The angles over here are very important. Distance between them, this is the septum. Shadow. At this stage, it looks really ugly. And then from here, I start getting a sense of where the lips begin. And just don't look at them as lips at all. Just look at them as shapes within shapes. Start with the center of the mouth rather than the corners. And see how the lower lip fits in. Edge of the lower lip is right below the left or right nostril. This extends further. So this part is very important when you have the tip of the nose. Baki, you may or may not do anything, but this part is the significant learning. Now, if we start shading here, slowly you will sculpt the shape of the nose. You will be able to build these lines much better. So the tip of the nose is often a circle or an oval, and it helps to create a nice high lit area. Now, unless you're absolutely sure about a shape, don't even draw it. Just keep it scratchy. That's fine. And be willing to adjust your lines as you go ahead. Now over here, this adding a skin tone color is important so that the lips do not look like they have been made up. The only way we can show the mouth is by shading the lips, but you don't want them to look like they are dark lipstick because they're not. So they will not look dark if the rest of the area around them is also shaded to some extent, so that the tonal value of the lips is close to the tonal value used for the skin around it. There's a highlighted section here, so you keep that. And proceed very slowly. Now this face has got freckles. So if you're going to make freckles on this, I love making freckles on faces. Never make freckles like stippling. Don't make them like dot, 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 dot like that. That looks really ugly. So making freckles, you can just move your pencil very lightly, change the pressure, just make these dots. Some are oval, some are round, according to the tilt of the skin. And they're definitely not equidistant. So be careful if you're making them like polka dots. Okay. How's everyone doing? Do you all want to try one of your own? So if you want, we can just focus on these features today. We don't have to do the portrait today. We'll do it next week. Let's not rush through this. If you're still getting a few features right, you're not sure about them, let's spend time on that. Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, good. This is my absolute favorite class, so I can do this the whole year. I hate to rush portraiture. Yes. Okay, Richa, can I just see everybody's eyes first? I'm going to recommend. Okay, we can. Yeah, Susan can move to the nose and mouth. Ritika, you can stay with the eyes longer. Rida, you as well. Alka, can I have a look at your nose and mouth? Sorry, yeah, eyes. Yeah, I think you can stick with the eyes for now. Just make another, not set, just another few single eyes first. We'll just stick with this.
Okay. Yeah.
And then after a couple of these, then move to the nose and mouth, because the nose and mouth is painful. So while we think that the eyes are the most difficult, at least there is something to see. And then in degrees of difficulty, you will have the nose and mouth, and then finally hands and feet. That will kill us. Yeah, I'm trying one more eye. Here, this eye does not have an eyebrow. Now, here's a tip for sketching portraits. I've come across this a bunch of times. I've not done this myself, but till recently. And I can only guess what advantage one has in that. If you are using a regular pencil like that, I have seen many portrait artists shave and sharpen the pencil such that the tip, the lead part of the pencil is exposed to about even an inch sometimes, or even more. So I'm going to go back and sharpen my pencil again to that size. Now, because I'm such a conjuice, I don't let this lead waste. So I will sharpen it in a container, which then I will use for sketching with, just as lead powder or charcoal powder. So I've drawn this much of the eye right now, but I'm going to sharpen the pencil and come and show you, just demonstrate, and let's see how that makes a difference. Okay, this is how my pencil looks now. And this is the shavings. These are the shavings. So it's part lead and part charcoal, because I've been illustrating with a charcoal pencil also. So
Yeah.
there is a lot that does get collected, which then eventually you can use with a brush so that you can do something like this. And do that whole gentle shading. Which we don't get with pencil. But now for something like this, you don't have to go out and buy special charcoal powder. I mean, it's good. Please buy art material. That's how we will all survive. But still, it's not, you can still practice a little bit without having to buy a new art material. This almost gives like a Renaissance style touch, the softness. And then you can build on this with the dark line. Now here I've totally taken off. I'm not, this is not sketchy anymore. This is very realistic. So I too fall under in that trap very frequently. Now at this stage, every line with the precision is very important. And I thoroughly enjoy this. So let me do a second one. The same eye, but as a rough sketch, which was the task for the day. I'll do one and I'll do that first and then I'll continue with this. Study the direction of the eyelashes. Here you have very prominent eyelashes. That's the highlight. The pupil. The iris. This is all we've meant to do. I took off a little bit. The advantage of sharpening your pencil to such an extreme point is, I suppose, now I'm just going to make a conjecture that you can see a lot of your artwork, which otherwise would be hidden by the pencil. So when you're looking at your artwork, a large chunk of it gets hidden. But when you're using this, because it's a very slim obstruction, you are able to make some very subtle lines very accurately. Other than that, just the large tip, the long tip, helps you, I guess, to shade longer before you have to go and sharpen it again. And the thin point helps you get detail much better also. Now here's where you can use the eraser as a tool. There isn't this dark shadow no over here. So here it is used to make lines in between. And you can still blend further. So it remains soft and you don't get those hard edges. You can also do some erasing over here between the lashes eventually.
Aditi, see this?
Okay, let me see. Okay, one second. Let me just have a look at the eye. Keep it held up, huh?
Hmm.
Nice. Very nice. So the
But
top,
I can't get the angle of the eyeball. Like it's not
yeah,
not looking. You know what I mean?
yeah, let me show you. So here, you've got the proportions, right?
Uh,
So here I would say this is the angle of the eye. And then you have the curvature of the eye and
uh,
the very little of this inner eyelid visible,
Hmm.
this part, because it instantly gets covered by the eyelid from this side.
Yeah.
Because it's foreshortened, and then you
Hmm.
see the bottom, right? So
Yeah.
this is about right. And then the eyeball, sorry, the iris is an oval shape. That is how it looks sideways.
Oh. Yeah. Mine is kind of looking more at me than away from me.
Yeah. And also, this shape
Oh.
is,
Latter slightly.
yeah, so you would have the eye shape like this in looking in front.
Oh.
On the side, it'll look
Oh. Okay.
this. And then sideways completely, it would look like this.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I've not given any side profiles right now.
Hmm.
This is normally how it would look. Oh, sorry. This is how it would be.
Oh.
And then you have the iris looking straight here. You see the inner eye and the eyeball
Ah.
looking sideways. And here it's even flattened.
Hmm.
Okay, now Richa, have a look at this. I have made the shape of the eyebrow very lightly. And I'm not drawing hair, individual hairs, but I'm following making a zigzag line. And once in a while, I will make just individual hairs to make it look like that eyebrow. But I'll also add a little bit of dark shading to the central part of the eyebrow so that it does not look too empty. That's it. And then do whatever shading required. There is some gray over here as well. And then when you're making the lashes, there, please pay attention to the direction, the length, and the nature of the line. Is it a straight line? Is it curving? In what direction is it curving? This is very important. So over here, you'll notice that the lashes are coming downward. They're not going up. Here, the lashes are going towards the left. They're not going up or down. Here, they're going downward, but not too long. And the common mistake that beginners make is just make everything go up. So even over here, you'll make everything go up, and it suddenly looks like very artificial eyes, and you can't figure out why. Depending upon how the picture is shot, how the model is looking in terms of the camera, these shapes will change. Okay, Alka?
Yes. Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Okay, one more, just to fill up the page. Uh, I was doing this for 3 months when I was 15 years old. And I can tell you that if you do a set of eyes every day for 3 months, you suddenly become very good at any kind of art. I don't know how that works. Maybe it was you do anything for 3 months, any kind of art, you become good at everything else also. In my case, it was eyes. So look for, I used to get my eyes from magazines. So I would go to the local library every day and they had international magazines, so I would get from there. And yeah, I would change the magazine every day. And right in the beginning of the magazine, the front few pages were these cosmetic ads. And that's where I started drawing from. So this shading that I do with lines also, no? It's the same line that I've been trying to use, this kind of line quality over here, this one. So hold your pencil far away and make it move like in a pendulous movement. So it's almost like a circular movement. So the line just touches down.
Aditi, anything
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
change, update on this.
Yeah. Could you share this on the group? So
Uh-huh.
I just want to check the line quality, the shading.
Yeah.
Huh.
I'll do that.
Okay. Now also remember that when you're drawing the upper lash, the it's pretty thick because of the eyelashes, the upper lid. So it's not just a thin line, it's a thick, very textured line from where the lashes come forward. Sometimes you see them only emerge as a short line, but they have traveled a distance towards the foreground, towards us. So it becomes a very thick, textured line over here. And that also accounts for a certain amount of space. So if you draw a very thin line and you try to draw lashes on that, that again can look very flat. Richa, how are you doing? Richa, Rida.
Mine is looking okay.
Okay. Richa, I want you to make more lines, more sketchy lines. So the same thing is happening with you over and over again, where you're trying to make one and only line. So this is probably how you're going about it. Okay. What I want you to do is, let me take another eye, for example. I want you to go over the shape in longer lines. They don't have to be fast, but make more than one line. And make it holding the pencil reasonably far away. Let the line flow. Unless you get your hand to move freely like this, your line will look very restricted. And don't worry about extra lines. Can you see how many lines I'm making over here? I sometimes feel that there is fear of making
Yes,
too many
what I do is
lines.
I make double lines and then I wonder which is the right line, and that sort of confuses me.
All right. So in that case, what you ought to do is make them lighter. And the ones that are the line that you want, you can continue to darken it like this. So let the other lines remain there. Like over here now, I'm changing the size of my pupil. We have to learn to see uh, the illustration that we want through these lines. See? So I'm firming up the lines that I think are right, but I'm letting the others be. Somewhere over here now, I will be able to make the correct line. But there's multiples over here, let them be. Now suppose I make for the eyebrows and I've made it so high, it's actually from here. This gives me a better shape. And now this part again is, for right-handed people, it's terrible, making eyebrows in the wrong direction. But go back and forth. And do this part slowly also, if you want. You don't need to rush to make the line. So if you can make one line at this speed, take the time to do that. And let them merge. Now at this point, you can make the lines slowly and maybe even like this. But you know which line it is. Okay.
Right.
So what I see you are probably doing is you make one line for the top lid, one line for the bottom lid, and then the lashes also come out from here. So everything is looking like what might look like a graphic. Now, if I were to make a graphic, I would do this. I would flatten everything up and draw lashes like that. And this is a graphic of an eye. And this, if I want to convert it to a realistic looking eye, I will soften up these lines. I will make multiple lines because in our in anything in nature, you hardly ever have any harsh lines or harsh distinctions in color or in texture. Everything flows from one into the other. So suddenly the graphic starts looking more human. Well, this one is human with a lot of makeup, I guess. But see, the lower lid also has two lines. There's an inner part of the lid as well. Hannah, do you get this?
Right. I'll try that.
All right. Rida, how about you? You don't have the same kind of problem, no?
Yeah, I'm having it now also.
So lines need to be sketchier and softer. Okay.
I'll send the photo on the group.
You have? Okay, let me have a look.
Can I show now?
1 second, yeah. Have you sent the photo? I don't see it.
I haven't sent it. Wait.
Okay.
I sent it now.
Wait, Rida, could you straighten it and send it?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah. Very nice. I like that you've used color pencils. They're looking very good.
Thank you.
Okay, actually, Rida's pictures bring a very interesting point forward, that I'm actually focusing on a way to make realistic eyes, nose, mouth, portraiture. But just look at Rida's, and for that matter, Richa, even yours would be the same. That there is a certain aesthetic beauty to imperfection. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Can you share your picture also on the group, Richa? This is very illustrative as opposed to making portraiture, and I absolutely love these styles. They're not but they convey the idea very nicely. There's a lot there's a lot of energy in the lines. That looks very good. And the imperfections, like the shapes of the nostrils, the extreme shades for the side of the nose and all, also looks very nice. Have you shared the picture again, Rida? Have you straightened it? Oh,
Yeah.
I haven't received it. Oh, yeah, okay. Got it, got it. Yeah, so Richa, even yours, just don't draw the veins and the gray shading that you've done. So a few things I want to point out. Very good. I'm glad you shared it. There's a structure to the eye that you need to maintain. And I think this was something we covered earlier in the year. Maybe you weren't there during class at that time. So pick your first picture. I'm going to demonstrate over here. And again, this is something that we are not taught and we don't even notice. So in this case, let's just look at the eyeball. There are certain ways in which you need to make the eyeball. Over here, you can't really tell where the eye is looking or where, why it's looking unnatural. So the thing with eyeballs is that, irises is that they need to be circular if the eye is looking towards the front. If it's not looking towards the front, then depending upon which side, it will become an oval and then continue to become flat and flat and flat. But even the shape of the eye will change. Now, if we have a circular iris, there is a circular center. This is the lens. It is always in the center, never in the side. That's because the structure of the eyeball and the iris is such that it's a circular muscle which expands and contracts. And these are certain things that are just the way they are, and our brain recognizes that as normal. So when we have a shape like this, we don't recognize it. It looks like a shape in an eye. You might as well draw a butterfly in that shape because it's it's so vague. Okay, so you've got it over here. You've got it somehow. But over here it looks very different. I'm trying to think which eye this is. Okay, let's just go back to the references. Is it this eye or is it, no, it can't be.
It's this I mean.
This eye?
Yes.
All right. Now over here, you can see that you don't see the whole circle,
Right.
right? So what you did was you got this part right, but then you made only so much of the eye, of the iris. Do you see that? All you need to do now is expand it so that this is the whole shape of the iris. And in that case, the lens that you've made is perfectly right.
Right.
Okay. Then, oh, then getting this shape over here. this is the eyeball, this is the inner eye or the thickness of the eyelid, right? And then you have this thickness also coming on top, and the upper eyelid covers the eyes so much. So there's so much thickness happening over here. Now the eyebrows also, look at the direction. And then in this case, they become straighter towards the edge. But just drawing this is not enough unless you draw the corner of the eye or the edge of the face also. Okay, I'm going to share this so that you can do a comparative drawing now.
Aditi, I've drawn the same eye. Shall I share it?
Yeah, let me see.
One second. Here, can you see it?
1 second, I'll just share this one. Could you put it on the group?
Yeah.
Okay, do you see this now? Here, this is how we would do this. The eye ends over here. See, within, I'm trying to make this within your drawing, Richa. Can you see it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So just a few lines here or there, and it will be perfectly fine. So this part that you've drawn over here is your own imagination. It's not there.
Hmm.
Okay, so this is again perception and reality. All right.
Right, ma'am.
You see, Alka's is good. So Alka, the lines on the eyebrow, they are strange.
Huh.
So they
Yeah,
have to be,
I just noticed that.
yeah,
When I saw the picture, great.
yeah. But this is an unusual line to make, so I guess it will look like that. Okay, now I wanted to just highlight Rida's certain lines. She always makes these. Her and Amanyu from the Tuesday batch used to make lines like that. I love this line quality. It's not accurate, but it is very strong. So even this, so many crosses she's made over here. This is like a person in jail. But the lines don't matter. The freckles are too much, they're a big scribble, but they don't matter. So the strength of the line is very important. And I'm going to ask everybody, please don't make these veins at all, because they look like worms in the eye. Let's not have that. Okay. So I would give more weight to strength of line than accuracy of line. Having said that, when you do make the line, it's like if I were to go back to, yeah. So over here, Richa, your line is not totally strong. Can you see? It's a really hesitant line. But this I would look perfectly fine if there wasn't so much gray inside the eye. This is just one even tone of gray. This is avoidable. Okay, you can just make a little bit of gray along the top. Where do I have gray? Yeah, so just along this, if you make it, that's good enough. But only if you see it. If you don't see it, don't make it. Sorry. Okay?
Right, ma'am.
All right. So I guess that's it for today. You can all continue to make these and more eyes through the week and share those pictures. And next week, I will take on the full face as well as turning them into some kind of caricature. All right. Not caricature, abstract illustration. Caricature is another thing. All right. Please share your images on the group as you all go along. And do try doing this exercise with color pencils. It completely changes dimension. Okay. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.